This episode of WDW Today is being sponsored by All-Star Vacation Homes. And you know what? With 2010 upon us now, you may be looking to plan your next trip to Walt Disney World. And why not get a lot of space for your vacation? That's right. You know what? A vacation home from All-Star Vacation Home can afford you. Everyone gets their own bedroom, private amenities like your own private pool, theater room, game room. These are the typical things that come in All-Star Vacation. I mean, you know what? It's for a fraction of the price of what you pay for a comparable place, even if they offered it at Disney World. So give them a try. Visit them online at www.allstarvacationhomes.com.
This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Friday, January 8th, 2010, and this is episode 666 of WDW Today. I'm Matt Hotchberg of Studios.com. Joining me on today's show is Mike Scopa, a senior feature writer and blogger for allears.net. Welcome, Mike.
He's only a little man, but believe me, he has big ideas.
Mangello?
I said big ideas.
Oh. Little man with big ideas. Little man with big ideas.
I say that with a British accent.
Imagination.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to go
Honey,
with...
I Shrunk the Audience.
That's exactly what I was going to say next. Honey, I Shrunk the Audience.
Yeah, figure that.
Also joining us on today's show is Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio.
Yes.
Happy 2010, Mike.
Is it 2010 already?
My God, how time flies. It was just 2005 one year, and we were saying, well, we should do a podcast, and bam, it's 2010.
Yeah, whose great idea was that?
Also joining us on today's show is Len Testa, co-author of the Unofficial Guide to Walt Disney World. Len, I spent 16 hours in Hollywood Studios for New Year's Eve, and I rode one attraction.
Yeah, but you were in the right. You were in the right park. It looks like the wait times there were the least bad of all of the.
Relatively speaking.
I went to the relatively speaking. I went to the Animal Kingdom in the morning, and it was fabulous. There was I think because nobody wanted to spend their day there. Yeah, no one wants to be there. Yeah, but I had a lot of fun in the Animal Kingdom. Also, Matt, I need to mention that at Epcot, I know how to achieve the absolute highest possible score on Sum of All Thrills.
Oh, how's that?
It's a secret, but I'll tell you later. Maybe we'll save it for another show.
Okay, very good.
The high score is 1,278 points, by the way. It's the most you can get.
Good to know. Also joining us on today's show is Michelle Scribner McLean, a senior feature writer for allears.net. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you for having me. It just makes me so happy when you say my name correctly.
It's only because of Die Hard movies I know how to say your name correctly.
It's the little things that count.
McLean!
Mangello?
Also joining us on today's show is our special guest, Greg Maletek, who's the author of Wishing Stars iPhone app. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Hey, thanks very much. I really appreciate you guys inviting me on.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to talk to different people in the Disney community, and certainly you have a very, very interesting endeavor that you've been taking upon yourself. You have an iPhone app called Wishing Stars, and why don't you explain to our listeners who maybe haven't heard of it, like the rest of us, what exactly is the app? Tell us about what it does exactly.
Sure. Well, Wishing Stars is a kind of treasure hunt that you go on at Disneyland and soon to be Walt Disney World, and use your iPhone. That basically it gives you clues. You go on various quests, and each quest is composed of several clues. The clues take you to various areas in the park, and the idea is that each of those clues takes you to a piece of a wishing star. Now, the wishing stars are hidden at hidden coordinates that are recorded as latitude and longitude coordinates. And if you solve the clue and go to the right spot in the park, then you will the phone will detect that you're in the right spot and give you your virtual piece of a wishing star. And so the goal is to collect them all. And the clues are based on all sorts of things. Some of them are just based upon knowledge of the park. Some are based on Disney history and trivia. Some are based on the things you find in the queues of certain attractions, like Pirates of the Caribbean or Haunted Mansion. And so the goal is to give you something fun and new to do at Disney World and Disneyland, and also give you something to do to basically occupy your time while you're waiting in line at attractions.
I was just about to ask you that, Greg. Is this aimed at like a distraction, something to keep you going while you're waiting in long lines at the parks, or is this more kind of as a secondary attraction, almost like something that you could actually dedicate quite a bit of time to in addition to your touring?
It's really both. I mean, I tried to target it towards audiences that, let's face it, most people when they're going to the parks, they want to ride rides. They're not going to go to play my iPhone game, although it might be a nice adjunct to what they're already planning on doing.
Okay.
So in that sense, there are some quests that are meant to be just sort of minor distractions, things to do while you're waiting in line. It'll ask you questions about things you see, for instance, in the graveyard at Haunted Mansion and so on.
Ghosts.
Ghosts.
Yes,
Ghosts.
exactly.
Okay.
But other things are actually sort of more full-time pursuits that you go on, and the quests are divided up into easy, medium, hard, and ultimate quests. And the harder they get, the more they'll demand of you, both in terms of the knowledge of Disney that you have to have, and also the effort that might be required to complete them.
What's an example of one of the harder questions?
Harder questions. Well, I know for the Walt Disney World one, I have there's a sponsor quest, and this is for diehards out there. One of the clues asks what restaurant used to be sponsored by Oscar Mayer.
Ooh.
I got that question when I did it.
Is it Casey's?
I could not answer it.
Casey's Corner?
That's not correct.
Oh, that's fine.
Oscar Mayer.
That's the too obvious.
I
I'll
don't
go ahead.
know.
I can go ahead and, if you guys give up, I'll go ahead and give this one to you as a bonus.
Go ahead.
Out there. It's a bonus to your listeners. It used to be called Town Square Cafe, and now it's called Tony's. It used to be sponsored by Oscar Mayer. When I was a kid and going to Disney World every year, that was one of my favorite places. They had a little guy named Little Oscar. He was about 4 feet tall, and he wore a little chef's uniform, and he'd come out and say hi to everybody, and he was the Oscar Mayer sponsor.
We know who he grew up to be.
So we're starting 2010 off exactly the way we intended. That's just awesome.
Right on the ground. Right on the gutter.
So that's fabulous. So how many clues do you have to answer to get a wishing star?
Well, it varies. Some of the easier ones have, I think you'd answer 2 or 3 questions. The tougher ones might be 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, there are a few that take place in sort of small areas. Like there's one that is the Cinderella Castle murals. So you go into the castle and you answer questions based upon what you see there. One of the ultimate quests is, for instance, visit all 4 parks in one day.
It can't be done.
It can't be done?
No, I'm just kidding. No, we've done it actually. That's why.
Yeah, it can be done. It just is. It's maybe not in the scope of what most people are doing with their day, but it is possible. So there's all sorts of creative things you can do. There's even one that you have to go to Walt Disney's birthplace.
Really?
Yes, and I'll leave it to your listeners to figure out where that is. It is not at Disneyland or Walt Disney World, though. You have to go somewhere else in the country.
Missouri?
And, I don't expect everyone to get that one, but for people who do know where it is and happen to be nearby, it's a nice bonus.
Could they just ship their iPhones off to wherever it is and have somebody there receptionist turn on the application? And,
you could do that. You could do that.
Exactly. That's smart. So are the quests divided up by like land? What's the organizing theme for each?
Well,
of the...
I launched the Disneyland version of the game back in September, actually, and the quests are divided up there as easy, medium, hard, and ultimate. For Disney World, since the place is so much bigger, I've had to kind of go a different route, and it's actually still in the works. But you'll still have what you'll be doing essentially, is you'll be buying quest books that have several quests in them, and the quest books might cover a given park. Like, for instance, you might buy an Epcot quest book or a Hollywood Studios quest book.
Okay.
And each quest in that each quest book will be a certain difficulty. It'll be easy, medium, hard, or ultimate, so you know what you're buying when you get it. But there'll be some content provided free with the game, and then if you want to go beyond that, you'll sort of buy these add-on packs.
So, Greg, when you say you buy a quest book, the app is a separate quest book?
No, actually, you only have to buy the app once, and then there's a new feature on the iPhone where you can add content to games by purchasing inside the app, essentially. So it'll be a little mini quest book store inside of Wishing Stars that you'll browse through, and you can choose the quests you want to go on.
Oh, neat.
So, go ahead, Dylan. Sorry.
And the books are organized by park? Or by really anything?
Organized by park and difficulty. At least that's the plan right now. It's still in flux, but that's what I'm planning on doing.
When do you plan on launching the Disney World version?
Well, it was supposed to launch in fall. I was telling everybody it was going to come out in the fall of 2009, and my schedule got a lot busier. I took on a new job in November, and that kind of threw a wrench into the works. But I'm hoping that I'm looking to do it before spring, is what I'll say right now. So hopefully February or March is what I'm shooting for.
Awesome. Cool.
But Disneyland fans can play it right now. I mean, it's available on the App Store right now,
so
they can go find that. It's just the Disney World version that hasn't come out yet.
Who's this geared towards exactly, Greg? Would you say that it's for children, it's for adults, it's for both? I mean, what do you think of the age ranges that would be appropriate for this app?
Yeah, I think for the easy quests, I think age 8 is about where I think they could, probably get a handle on some of the easier clues. And I've actually gotten feedback from somebody who I think had kids age 7 and 9, and they were able to do it and have a lot of fun. Now, I mean, the hard quests probably are not going to work for kids that are age 8, but for the easier ones, like for instance, in Disneyland, there's a Toontown mail quest where you have to find the Toontown post office and basically pick up these virtual letters that you then have to deliver to Mickey, Minnie, and Donald and Goofy.
Oh,
and
that's clever.
Yeah, so that's kids seem to like that one, and that could be done by somebody I would think would be 7 or 8 without any problem.
Let me ask Michelle. Michelle, we brought you on specifically on the show. First of all, we enjoy vegetarians on the show all the time. But you've also had an opportunity to really play with the app a little bit. Tell us about your thoughts on the app and what you thought, what you liked about it exactly.
I did. Greg was kind enough to let a few of us at All Ears with iPhones give it a try. So Mike and I were beta testers when we were there in December.
Show off. And
I very much enjoyed it. It really reminded me of another version of Kim Possible, and I love doing Kim Possible because you sort of had to run around. Instead of your communicator, you had your iPhone. And, Mike and I have both been to the parks as much as pretty much anybody, except for you, Matt, or Len. And we noticed many things that we'd never seen before, many little things. We just stayed in Fantasyland, and I tried out 3 quests. I think Mike helped me with part of 1. So I enjoyed kind of going around and seeing things that I'd never seen before. And I also did the mural quest, and I looked at the Cinderella mural many, many times, and it had you do things like count the number of doves, and so it made you really look carefully. It's not just a scavenger hunt type of option. There are other options too, like looking closely, standing in one place and looking at something very closely. And I did part of the sponsor quest too, but it was a little bit trickier for me. So to me, it seemed a lot like Kim Possible, and I liked that a lot. I really enjoyed it. Is that what you're trying to go for, Greg, when you were doing it? Sort of like Kim Possible experience?
I actually hadn't played Kim Possible. I had heard about it, but I hadn't played it until just this past October when I was at Disney World for about a week preparing the game, and I really liked it a lot. It was cool. I mean, they definitely do some cool stuff that I wish I could do in Wishing Stars by integrating with the environment. But it's the same kind of idea, sort of overlaying an attraction on top of this place that that all of us love so much. It gives you something else to do there. And I really like the fact that you mentioned that you had seen some things you maybe hadn't seen before, because that was definitely one of my goals as well, to show people some things about the park that they had never seen, and some hidden things to uncover. I've gotten a lot of emails from people who, for instance, one guy at Disneyland, he'd been going every year, had never seen Snow White's grotto for whatever reason, and so he loved noticing that for the very first time.
Mike and I even stopped a cast member and asked them to help us with one of them. So it was a nice way to interact with
and
cast
she
member.
couldn't find that.
Right. So she said, she helped us look for something, and she said, wow, that's where that is. So that was really kind of neat.
Oh, that's great.
Hey, Greg, what was the most difficult aspect of this app in terms of getting it to work the way you wanted to? What was the most difficult part of the whole process for you?
That's a good question. I mean, there's the technical aspects, which is using the GPS in the phone, which is somewhat accurate, but not perfectly accurate. That was a bit of a challenge, and frankly, something I'm still working on to try and get as accurate as I possibly can.
What's the resolution on it? Do you know?
I think in practice, it sort of depends on how long you want to wait is the issue. If you're willing to stand in one spot, in a big open spot for about 30 seconds, it'll probably be accurate to probably 10 feet or so. Maybe
I found
like
no
5 or 6
problems
feet.
at all. All the different things we did, I found no problems with it recognizing and giving us a wishing star.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, I sort of have hit sort of a hit area, if for lack of a better term, around each place where you're supposed to go, and I kind of vary the size depending upon several factors. But that's definitely a challenge and something that I'm still working on. The other aspect was trying to make it feel like an authentic Disney experience, and so I spent a lot of time on the graphics and sound, just to make it feel like something that was really something that was enhancing your Disney experience rather than taking away from it or distracting from it. And so that was the other big challenge.
Cool. It looks really good. How much are you going to charge for it when you release it to the public, the Disney World version?
That's a good question. I'm looking for the newer model. I haven't really quite figured it out yet, but the current price for the Disneyland version is $5.99. Okay. What is likely to happen going forward especially for the Disney World version, is that the price to get it will be a bit lower than that, and it will come with a certain amount of content, and then you'll be able to buy additional content, as I was talking about before, to sort of add on to the game in the ways that seem most interesting to you.
Now, Greg, last question for you. Being that we're probably most interested in the Disney World version, I know you haven't set the price point quite yet, but how much gameplay would you estimate would the version that's going to come out offer the user for the price?
In terms of I don't know exactly what will come with it because I haven't set the price point yet, and that price point will determine a lot. But in terms of, I can answer it for the Disneyland version. I mean, you could easily spend, I'd say, a good 2 or 3 days if that's all you did was play the game. So there's a lot of content in there, and there's going to be far more content in the Disney World version. I mean, I can tell you that it's not going to be terribly expensive, even if you buy all the content. I'll give you a certain amount to get going, and that'll be, probably plenty for a lot of people. But even if you wanted to do everything, which from what I can, off the top of my head, it would take you probably a week or so.
Wow.
The nice thing, too, is with your website, you can really see the demo before you buy it, which really shows you what the graphics look like and what some of the quests look like, so you know what you're buying.
Cool.
Yeah, no, if you visit, it's wishingstarsgame.com, and if you go to that website, like Michelle said, you can see the demo and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. The website is wishingstarsgame.com or wishing-stars.com. And
those both work.
Yeah, and you can also check out the Wishing Stars Twitter at twitter.com/wishing_stars. So their username is wishing_stars. And Greg, I really think you're onto something really cool over here. And if you get a chance just to stop over on his website and take a look at some of the screenshots, and obviously if you live at Disneyland or are going to Disneyland soon and would like to check it out, I mean, obviously it sounds like it's a wonderful product, Greg, and I'm really looking forward to your Disney World version.
Hey, Matt, thanks very much.
Matt, real quick before we let Greg go, let him talk a little bit about his poster experience with the Disney Corporation.
Yeah, I mean, part of I've always been a lifelong Disney fan, so I probably would have done the game regardless. But one of the motivations is I've been an artist for Disney for the past 5 years or so as a on contract basis, and I did. I had done some. I've always been a fan of the attraction posters, and I had done some kind of fake attraction posters for Walt Disney World several years ago. One for If You Had Wings, and one for the Swan Boats, and one for the.
Because this is actually you and I met. Because I asked you about one of the attraction posters that Greg did are just fantastic. They totally capture both the spirit of the attraction as well as the look and feel of actual Disney posters. I've actually got the Space Mountain one, which I downloaded from Greg's site, and I had it printed out in poster form, and it hangs up in my office.
Nice.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's fantastic. Anyway, go ahead, Greg.
If You Had Wings is like 30 years old.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I started going there, I think, to the park in probably 72.
Yeah, that's when I was around.
At least once a year for about 15 or 16 years until I, got out of college and moved out to the West Coast. So I'm definitely a long-term Disney World fan. Yeah. And anyway, so I had created these fake attraction posters, put them online. There's a couple of sites picked them up. The Widen Your World site, I know, put the If You Had Wings poster on there. And just this one day, I got an email from this guy named Tom Morris, and he said, hey, how long did it take you to make these posters? And I told him, I can't remember what it was now, a couple of weeks. And he's like, well, would you like to do them for us? And turns out he was the creative head of Hong Kong Disneyland.
Wow.
He's one of the top guys in Imagineering. And so he really liked the retro look of my posters and hired me to do 7 of the 12 attraction posters they used for Hong Kong Disneyland.
Wow,
that was
that's
just
amazing.
an awesome experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool.
I also got to do the opening day stamps for the park as well. And since then, I've gone on to do, I did a bunch of Hong Kong stuff. I did there's a big billboard you drive through in Autopia. And if anybody wants to check this out, they can, there's another website where you can see my work. It's, the URL is Greg Maletic Work, and it's GregMaletic WORK. And that's gregmaleticwork.wordpress.com. WORDPRESS.com. So it's not necessarily the nicest URL.
Nice.
Attractionposters.com. Okay, but whatever. That's cool.
That's nice. Greg, thanks so much for your time and for everything over there. And, of course, we'll have the links to everything we mentioned at WDWtoday.com.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, thanks very much for inviting me on. I really appreciate it.
And I want to mention, of course, that this episode has been sponsored by All-Star Vacation Homes. And you know what? If you're going to be staying for 7 nights or longer at an All-Star Vacation Home, they're going to throw in a free rental car. That's right. You reserve your 3, 4, or 5-star vacation home in the low, mid, or high season and receive a free intermediate-sized rental car from Enterprise. That's right. So you're paying to stay there anyway, and you're going to get a free rental car to get thrown in there. It's a great deal. Check them out at www.allstarvacationhomes.com. If you want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the WDW Today website at WDWtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Silva, Mike Newell, Michelle
This
Scrivener
has been a
McLean, and
production
Greg
of
Maletic,
Mouse World
I'm
Radio.
Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.